Howdy y'all! Today I want to talk about the gear that I was carrying for the 275 miles that I have done so far on the Appalachian Trail. I'm not going to go into any extensive detail or do any type of reviews on the gear, just sort of a quick whether or not I like the gear, whether I will continue to use that same gear on the remainder of the miles I have left on the Appalachian Trail, as well as the gear that I sent home that I will not carry and gear that I have bought. So any gear changes that I've made since coming off the trail. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I am Braids, and I was in the process of through hiking the Appalachian Trail in 2020 and had to get off trail due to the current situation with the coronavirus. Let's get into the gear I carried. The pack that I carried was the Waymark Gear Lite 50. Overall, I absolutely love this pack. I love all of the pockets and the convenience of the pockets, including the hip belt pockets. And I love the way it looked, the colors, the material that it's made from is Zpacks, and it just seemed to be very durable. As you can tell, almost 300 miles, it still looks like it's brand new. Overall, the pack was really comfortable and I really enjoyed it. It is a frameless pack, but with frameless packs, you just have to be really careful how you pack your gear, and any little thing that's off can sometimes you could kind of feel it as you carry it. There were times when it would kind of start to feel a little uncomfortable. Granted, I did lose about 3 inches off of my waist and off of my hips, which I think may have affected the hip belt sizing. So I would say that's the one thing I wish about this pack, is that the hip belt was removable, that you could switch out the hip belt. I do plan to still carry this pack when I get back out on the trail, but I am considering going back on Waymark Gear's website and possibly ordering a different pack and just kind of changing out things like the hip belt size and stuff like that. But overall, I did really love the pack and will continue to use it. The tent that I carried was the Zpacks Duplex. And I know if you've watched any of my trail videos, you'll know that I had complained a few times about the tent. I complained about how it's stuffed into its sack, about condensation in the tent, and I can just tell you that even with my initial complaints, I do really still love this tent. It is super light, it is easy to pack down, it dries super quick, and it's pretty easy to set up too, honestly, even no matter what kind of conditions. And it never leaked. There was never water in the floor of my tent. It would just, there was condensation, but I found that even people on the trail who had a double wall tent, their tent would get condensation as well. If you're out in multiple days of rain and hours of rain, you're just gonna get wet. That's just the reality. Also, I initially had some issues with getting it packed into this bag, but I realized that once I kind of got used to packing it, I could get it packed inside of its own sack in less than 5 minutes. The tent stakes that I used for the Zpacks tent were the Zpacks Sonic stakes, and these were the 7-inch stakes. And I never ever had issues with wind with my tent. My tent never collapsed. It never even sagged from the wind, and there was some pretty strong winds out on the AT during the month I was out there. The sleeping quilt that I used was the Enlightened Equipment Enigma. This was the 850 fill 10 degree. I love this quilt so much. It kept me super warm no matter how cold it got, and it got down into the teens multiple times. Even when it would get condensation on it or dampness, I still stayed super warm and dry inside of my quilt. And on top of that, it dries super fast, just like the tent. It dried so quick. Along with the quilt, I also had the Therm-A-Rest Neoair X-Therm Max sleeping pad. It has a really high R value, which meant you never felt the coldness of the ground ever. It's also rectangle, which worked perfect with my quilt, so I never got any kind of cold drafts or anything like that. And overall, it's just super comfortable. It is a little higher weight than some of the other sleeping pads and definitely bigger, but honestly, it works so amazing. I will continue to use this pad throughout my hike. I don't know if y'all noticed or not, but there's baby Yoda. He's hanging out with me, helping me go over my gear. The trekking poles that I used, which also held my tent up, were the Black Diamond Carbon Cork, excuse me, let me try that again. Black Diamond Alpine Carbon Cork. And these are just amazing trekking poles. They're very sturdy. They're not super heavy. I mean, they're definitely lighter than some of the other ones. But they worked great. Never had any kind of weird blisters or anything from using them. And they kept my tent up. So these are awesome, and I will continue to use these. The puffy jacket that I wore is the Mountain Hardwear Ghost Whisperer. I only used this at night when I was sleeping in my quilt, and also just like at camp or if I went into town. And overall this worked great. I mean, it's just a super lightweight jacket and it's great. It's held up nicely, even if it got a little damp, which I did a couple of times just because of condensation on my tent. It still kept me warm and I like it, and I'm going to continue to use it. The leggings that I wore are Woolex brand, and they are a mid-weight Australian merino wool, and all I can say is these worked really great. They were super comfortable. They held up really well. Like, there's no snags or tears, and I even had to like climb over trees and stuff in them, and they kept me super warm the whole time. So these are really great leggings, and I would say I would continue to use them, but because they are a mid-weight, they're a little heavy for like warmer weather, so I'm going to order me a lightweight pair because I definitely recommend wearing merino wool when you hike. The undergarments that I used were the Ex Officio briefs. They look like this, and the Patagonia Barely Bra, which looks like this. And all I can say is this is the most amazing sports bra that I have ever used in my life. It is ridiculously comfortable, even when it would get wet. I will definitely continue to use the bra as well as the underwear. They were very comfortable for me. They didn't ride up or move around, so I really like them. So I'm going to keep using those as well. The shirt that I wore is a Patagonia Capilene Cool Trail t-shirt, and it is the most comfortable shirt. It is so soft, and it just fits really nicely, and I really loved it so much. So yes, I'll continue to use this t-shirt. I am considering getting a sleeveless one for warmer months though. They have one just like this, but it's sleeveless. It's a tank top. But yes, I love this, and I will continue to use it. The shorts that I wore were just a Under Armour, like running short. They were ventilated. They have a drawstring, and they had pockets, which is pretty awesome. And they were just super comfortable, easy to wear. They did have underwear in them, which I cut out just since I already carried underwear. But yeah, these were amazing. These were great to wear. And if you watch my videos, I give another reason in one of my videos as to why they're great for women. Just because it's a much more convenient way to pee wearing these. I won't go into details on this video, but overall these were amazing, and yes, I will continue to wear these shorts. The toboggan that I wore was just a toboggan that I had picked up at just a local outfitter, and it's by a company called Pistol. I love the toboggan. I love the way it looked on me. I love the colors. I mean, I really like this hat, and it definitely kept me warm. The downside is when I would sleep in it at night, for some reason it kept wanting to come off my head. So I would wake up in the middle of the night with it off of my head. So I'm not really sure the reason behind that. I guess just because it's just a wool hat. But that's the only downside to this hat. And I will continue to carry it with me when I get back on the trail. Even in the warmer months, I'll keep it, you know, just in case. Especially as I go up further up north. The socks that I hiked in most of the time were Darn Tough socks. They were the lightweight version, cushion version. These worked amazing for me. I had absolutely no foot issues from them, and I never got blisters. They were super comfortable. They've held up really well so far, and yes, I love Darn Tough socks, and I will continue to use these. My sleeping socks, which also sometimes had to work as my winter snow socks when it got really cold, these were by the Woolex brand also, and these are incredibly warm, incredibly soft, comfortable socks. Most of the time they were my sleeping socks, but there was occasions where I would wear them if it was just too cold or too snowy, and I needed a warmer pair of socks. These are definitely a great sock to have in the colder months. I didn't actually realize how much I was going to love this piece of gear, but I ended up really loving this so much and wearing it a lot. And that is the Patagonia R1 hoodie, and it's a jacket, so it just zips all the way up. It has some pockets, it has a hood, and it just has this like weird material. Don't ask me anything about it, I can't remember, but I guess it helps keep you warmer. And it got pretty cold, and I would wear this as my hiking jacket, and it was just so awesome because it always kept me warm, and it kept me actually pretty dry. Even when it would rain, it's almost kind of a water resistant layer, and it would never soak through. So I don't know, I mean, I'm not saying it's waterproof, I'm just saying it worked amazing as a hiking jacket. Two pieces of gear that I used as my sleeping clothes, it was like my sleeping shirt, my sleeping leggings, were made by the brand 32 Degrees, and they were lightweight polyester material. They're super soft. I mean, for sleeping in, they're great. I did wear the leggings one day, and it happened to be a day that it rained, and they did not keep me warm the way the merino wool leggings do. So I wouldn't recommend them as your like backup leggings, only because, like I said, they didn't really keep me very warm when it got cold and rainy. Although I did like these, like I said, they're super soft, super lightweight. I would probably rather have just a lightweight merino wool legging that I can wear for hiking, or I can wear to sleep in if I needed to. I think at this point these are not going to go back out with me, and they'll probably stay home. The rain jacket and the rain pants that I wore are made by Montbell. The Montbell Versalite pants and jacket are made from one piece of fabric. I would say 80% of the time I never got wet wearing these, like at all. My clothes would stay dry underneath. They did a really good job of repelling the water. They did an amazing job in the wind and keeping me warm. They were a great warmth layer, and they didn't get any kind of snags or tears or anything. They were super comfortable to wear, even just with shorts on, and they're very lightweight, and it even has a drawstring as well. But yeah, these are 2.9 ounces for these pants. The jacket itself weighs 5.6 ounces, I believe, and the hood on it actually has like a brim, so you don't even have to wear a ball cap with it, which is really convenient, because when I would wear my ball cap, it would cover my eyes, and I bumped into tree limbs a few times because of it. But this has pin zips, it has zipper pockets. I just love it so much. So yes, I will absolutely continue to carry both of those when I get back out on the trail. The camp shoes that I used, which usually ended up being more for town shoes than anything, is the Zero Z-Trail shoes, and they are just amazing shoes. They're super comfortable. I know that they're zero drop or flat or whatever we call this. I don't know really what it's called, but they're a minimalist shoe, but they have really great tread. I can wear my socks with them. They pack down really flat. I was so glad to have these, and I will continue to use these. And the shoes that I wore were the Saucony Patagonia 8s. Their tread is ridiculously amazing. I never fell, not one time. I wore these on snow, wet, leaves, grass, I mean, everything, and rocks. They dry really quick. Even when they would fill with water, they would drain really fast. I mean, they were a little bit dirty, but as you can see, 275 miles, not one hole, not one tear, nothing's coming apart. So I'm almost sure I will get 500 miles out of these. These shoes here will go back with me on the AT. They were very comfortable. They are, if you have a higher arch, which I do, they work great for that. They're very cushiony. I actually didn't even put in I just used the insole that it comes with. I didn't use a different insole. I never got one blister. I never had any foot aches or pains at all. They do run narrow. So I bought these a size and a half bigger. My feet never swelled. My toes never come to the edge. Yeah, I had no toenail issues, nothing. A lot of y'all have asked about the battery pack that I was carrying, and what I used was the Anchor 20,000 milliamp, and it has 2 ports on it. Although when I was out on the trail, I only had to usually use one port, and that was just for my phone to charge, because I used my phone to video with. I did have an iPhone 5, which I used to listen to music, so sometimes I would have to charge that as well. You can see here that it has 4 lights to show you the battery life, and it never got below 2 lights. So if I was out, usually I was out on the trail maybe about 4 days. So it worked great for that. This might be a lot for some people, but it worked great for me because I was doing so much vlogging. I also carried the Kula Cloth, and it's just basically a pea cloth for women. Well, I guess guys could use it too. Ultimately, it just worked better than just say using a regular cloth, because even if it got kind of wet, the outer part would stay kind of dry, and that was nice. And then you could close it up to make it smaller, and I really loved it. It was just very convenient, and I will continue to carry it. I can't really say much about this because I only used it one time, and that is the InReach Garment Explorer. It worked fine for the one time that I used it, but on the AT, the 275 miles that I did, I always had signal, except for one day. One of the items I sent home was my sleeping pad, and this was the Therm-A-Rest Neoair X Lite. And I initially carried it because it's obviously a lot smaller and a lot lighter weight. But for me personally, it just wasn't comfortable enough. I'm a side sleeper and I toss and turn a lot, and this just for me was not comfortable, being that it's mummy shaped. So I sent it home and I got the other pad. I took these little socks initially to sleep in, but they just were not warm enough, so these went home as well. I wore the Dirty Girl Gaiters one time, and the Velcro that it attaches to on your shoe came off the shoe, and I just found that debris almost never got into my shoes anyway, so I just sent these home because I didn't really feel like I needed them anyway. I sent home the Neoprene socks that I purchased, thinking that they would work well as a warmth layer over my lightweight Darn Toughs. But I ended up finding that I just didn't need to wear them. I wore them maybe once, twice, and it just didn't seem to make enough of a difference to matter, because I had the wool socks, which seemed to work better to me than these. I also sent home my silk sleeping bag liner. This one is a rectangle shape, which I thought would work well with the quilt, but it ended up, for me personally, just to be more cumbersome than helpful. And I actually found that I was colder when I would use the liner than when I would take the liner out and just use my sleeping quilt to keep me warm. I initially started out carrying wired headphones because I thought I didn't want something else to have to charge, but these became very annoying very quickly. So I sent these home, and I ended up carrying my wireless Bluetooth headphones, and I ended up finding that they didn't use a whole lot of battery life anyway, so these were great. And these are the Montbell brand. I got them on Amazon. I don't really know a whole lot about them, but they work great. I also ended up switching out my pack liner. I was using that clear pack liner that you'll see on a lot of the ultralight websites. It's Nilo Fume or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it's called. With the rain coming into my pack, it actually ended up getting wet inside of it, so it wasn't very helpful to me. So I just traded it out for a trash compactor bag, and this worked great. I initially brought some of these Injinji toe liner socks, but I never wore them and never needed to. I never got blisters, so I sent these home as well. When I brought my cook set out, which was basically just this titanium cup, I had this lid here, which is basically converts to a pan, because I thought I might want to like fry up Spam or something. But I honestly am a lazy cook out on the trail, and I don't like cooking. So I just sent this home, and I got back the lid that it came with, and that saved me an ounce. I also initially brought the Msr Pocket Rocket, which is great. It's a great little stove, but it's a little heavier, and I was trying to bring my weight down as much as I could. So I sent it home, and I actually brought the BRS stove, which works really great. I didn't have any issues with it. Now I will say that the Pocket Rocket stove does seem to work better in wind than the BRS will, but I still found ways to block the wind and be able to use my stove. So it worked fine for me because this is a lot lighter weight and it packs down smaller and it fits into my little setup better. Another item that I ended up sending home because I never used it was my micro spikes. In the 30 days I was on the trail and I had several days of snow. There was ice on the trail, but I just never saw a need to put these on. There was always packed snow or dry rocks or something I could walk around the ice, and I didn't slip or fall or get injured at all. Having my trekking poles I think helped a lot, and just being super careful and super slow. This is the Z-Pak's pack cover, so it's made from the Dyneema fabric, which I think will work really well to just kind of help keep the contents, especially the contents outside of my pack, dry. Even though my pack, the material itself was pretty waterproof, it would still get water into the pack, and all my gear always stayed dry, even while I was hiking. I mean, it always stayed dry. But my pack would be wet, especially like when it was cold and it would snow. Then I would have all this snow like on my pack and into like the crevices and pockets. And if I had something like this, I think that would have helped a lot. So this only weighs like an ounce. It is all packed in its little bag right now, but I will be taking this out with me when I get back on the trail. In addition to that, I also picked up this collapsible Nalgene bottle. It has a screw top, it's wide mouth. When I'm in my tent at night, especially when it's rainy or cold or just I'm too lazy to want to get up out of my tent, I can do my #1 business in this, and it makes life a lot easier. And then you can kind of rid your waist later. And again, just for #1. Yeah, it's a girl's best friend. Alright guys, well that is the end of this video, and I hope that it was at least somewhat helpful for you and gave you some insight into the pieces of gear that I carried so far on the trail and what I'll be continuing to carry once I get back out there, which I'm still optimistically hopeful will be sometime this year. But if not, it will definitely be 2021. Maybe I should say hopefully, not definitely, because as we come to find out with this year, nothing is ever definite. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about some of the gear that I carried. And also let me know what kind of videos you would like to see me making. I would like to continue to make videos, and hopefully maybe at some point I can get out and do some hiking and make some videos of that. But just let me know in the comments below if you have any video suggestions. And until the next video, see you guys later.